Hey guys, so what I want to do right now is I want to dive into the last Nintendo Direct. I think there was some good stuff shown, some interesting announcements that are non-gaming related also.
Hmm.
So, this is what I kind of want to get into. Jay, I think for this one, I'm going to let you start.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So just kind of looking at the big picture, then I start with my thoughts on the bigger piece, and it'd be good to get everybody's thoughts, and then we can kind of go through the list of games and announcements, and then kind of wrap up with what are things that we've really kind of stood out for us. For me, the last couple of directs have been, not that exciting, almost been filler. There's not really been any big game announcements, a couple of DLCs. This particular one I thought was uh, just watching it, I was engaged, and there were a couple of announcements now which I thought were pretty good. Probably not all games that I would go out and buy and play, but in terms of a good direct, I thought this was very, very strong. And Joe, what were your kind of initial impressions of the
I was
the
bored,
direct?
but I don't think I was paying that much attention to it. I actually thought the Nintendo Direct during E3 was actually decent.
Right.
Thought that was a decent showing. But for this one, for whatever reason, the first time I saw it, I was bored. I was just a little bit, I was kind of meh, a little bit underwhelmed.
Hmm.
But having watched it again, I would say there were some fairly interesting announcements, and there were some things I didn't really expect.
Right.
If I'm being honest,
Hmm.
all things considered, it was actually a strong showing. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great. Al, did you get a chance
I
to
didn't even
watch
watch
the
it,
direct?
so I'm waiting to
You
hear
didn't.
what you guys think of it, and then
And what was the reason for that? Is that because you just got written off Nintendo,
uh,
and you're focusing more on the PC PlayStation
I
side, or
guess the media outlets I would be watching anything big, I'd probably hear about it,
right?
and I think it's probably a balance of time to find what would root me the most information rather than Genshin Impact also do these kind of big kind of preview release kind of things, and it takes like a couple of hours. I'm just like, well, I'll just wait for someone to do a highlights video.
Yeah, that's what I've typically done in the last couple because there's been a pattern of them not being that great. So I'll have a look on a website and see here
Yeah,
are a couple of the highlights and trailers, and if it's good, then I'll go back and watch it. But for this one, I was put it in my diary and make sure I was there. Cool. All right, it's just in terms of like kind of highlights of the key games. So there was, and feel free to jump in as well if you've got any thoughts on any of these games. So the Bayonetta 3 was the kind of the
mm,
big moment at the end of the reveal. It's not really a game that I would buy, but watching it, the gameplay live, I thought it looked really good because this one's been kind of not shown for a while. It's got a big fan base. People are worried about it, is it having development problems because they're not showing it for some time. But it had quite a strong showing at the end of the show as a kind of one more thing type thing. Did you have any thoughts on Bayonetta 3? Is it something any of you guys played the other
Yeah,
games?
I played the first one. First one's really,
is
really
it
good.
a Switch exclusive?
Yeah, Switch exclusive.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
That might push me to buy one. That might actually push me to buy one.
It was first announced in 2017, actually, so it's a bit of a slow burner in terms of development. No doubt about that. Oh, one thing about Bayonetta, I'll kind of like put out there, is that I don't know if you guys remember the first and second Bayonetta,
Hmm.
but it was quite risque. It was really quite risque, right?
Yep.
Because if you saw a lot of the supers that she'd use and the specials were formed out of her hair,
Right.
but her hair also constituted her clothes.
Okay.
And I think they've kind of got rid of all of that. And
Ooh, interesting.
yeah, exactly. When the specials hit, and you had these kind of large creatures that she was creating, there was none of the "this is my hair, I've got no clothes on" sort of scenario, and it was just her kind of like doing some sort of dance in the background while the specials were
It's
kicking off, and I think it's a kind of a sign of the
Yeah.
times,
Yeah, and I think that's probably why it's gone into
Mm.
hiding for a while.
possibly.
They've probably wrapped her up in clothes for some of those
Yeah.
moves.
The interesting thing is, though, with a lot of these types of games, there's always a certain countries will have a requirement to censor a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think what they'll find is their main fan base might be up in arms about it.
Diehards. The
Exactly
diehards.
that, and they'll call it censorship, right? That's what they'll call it.
Yeah, I just think the world is in a different place to where it was. Kind of like, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed about it. It goes, okay, it's a little less risque. It's a little less carry on. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
For the people in the UK that understand that, Carry On was a very risque kind of series of films in the 60s and 70s.
They're very, very good. Just moving on, so Splatoon 3 was shown as well. I mean, I've played the demos of the first and second one, and it's good. It just, when you've been playing first-person shooters on a console, it just seems like almost too light. But it's got a very strong following, and I can imagine that's going to sell a lot of units. That was from a Nintendo community, that's would have been a strong one. Next on the list was Kirby, which I thought was quite interesting. It's probably not a game I'm going to buy, but it looks like they've actually changed up the Kirby formula. Rather than be a kind of side-scrolling 2DS kind of platform, they've actually gone for something that looks a little bit like Mario Odyssey. And I think some of them have been talking about they're probably using the same game engine. But did you guys see this trailer? Did you?
I did. I agree with you. I mean, it's obviously more of a Mario 64, Mario Odyssey, like Mario Galaxy type of format now. And historically, Kirby's always been 2D.
Yes.
But you know what? I would have preferred Kirby to stay at 2 or maybe 2.5D almost. Sometimes when you go fully 3D, you lose some of the charm.
It was the same with Mario 64, wasn't it? The 3D was a bit clunky to begin with.
Yeah, there's a little element of that.
Until you get used to it, I think was part of the issue.
I was mind blown by Mario 64, to be honest. I mean, if you play it now, it hasn't aged well, but for the time, it was mind blowing. And I think, Nintendo has quite big gaps between their kind of 3D platform, Mario Odyssey or the Zeldas, and they need something else to kind of fill in that gap. They've got Donkey Kong. I can imagine Donkey Kong being really good in a kind of 3D space, but they haven't done it since the kind of the 64 sort of games. They've tried it with Kirby here, and I think it's one of those games. It looked interesting. It didn't look nowhere near as Mario ever was going to benchmark it against. But I think it's one of those games you're going to have to play and see how good some of the platforming puzzles are for it to justify itself. But it's still, at least they're trying, Nintendo. I think. Oh, that was a positive. Yeah. That's probably enough on that one. The other headline was Monster Hunter Rise. There's a DLC that's coming out called Sunbreak. I don't know if you guys have played this. I've actually got this game on my Switch, and when I was having a break from Destiny, I played it for 2-3 months just to kind of get into it. It's actually quite a deep game. I probably came up to a bit of a wall because it didn't have some of the in-game guidance. You probably have to go online to read into the mechanics. But from this trailer perspective, I thought it looked really good. They showed one of those, one of the big enemies. I think at the same time they announced, I don't know if it was a part of the direct, but offline, the game's coming to the PC in Q1 next year, is it?
Yeah, I think I've already seen some early versions of it come out. Maybe it's only beta only, but yeah, Q1 makes sense. I think that's quite similar to what World was like.
Was that cross-play from console to PC?
It wasn't, because the patch cycle was different. The PlayStation and Xbox, I guess, was 1 year ahead. So they were never in sync. But in theory, it would have been great for at least cross-progression or cross-play would be perfect.
Because I could do with your help on this, because you're a kind of a long-running Monster Hunter player. I've hit a bit of a wall on this. I'm going to go and check, see if it's cross-play, but I'd love to play with that with you online.
Yeah. I think I've left it because, again, I think my brother, he ordered his Switch specifically for MH Rise, and he played that through, so he's played that. I wasn't going to jump into it just for Rise.
Is it a similar game to World?
Similar, more fluid. There's some interesting additional mechanics.
they've evolved it. I can't list it off the top of my head, but from what I read about it, and the little I've played under the demo of World, it's not a Nintendo DS upgrade. It's an evolution of the World, obviously reduced graphics to make it allowed to, but the mechanics they've evolved it. For example, you've got verticality in the maps now, which you don't have in World, do you?
We had a tiny bit only with the DLC. So there was a thing called a clutch claw, which allowed you to grab onto certain parts of the monster.
Right. Okay.
Which gave you a bit more vertical movement, a bit more.
This is it's a game I really like, to be honest. And I think it's sold very well as well. So I imagine this is going to pull people back as well. But I'll see if it's got crossplay. I doubt it, given it's a Switch. The other big announcement as well, and I really would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Right, was they're bringing N64 games to their online service, and there's a couple of parts I would like us kind of to hear your thoughts on. So there's the increase in price, which I haven't mentioned. They're calling this. Sorry, let me start with what's included. Right, so they announced an extension to the online service called an expansion pack, and it includes a bunch of games for the N64, which I'll go through in a second. But more interestingly, they've added Mega Drive games. Genesis if you're in the US, which I thought came out from nowhere, which is really interesting. The games they've listed seem to be a much better set of games than when they came out with the SNES games.
The classics.
With the classics. They have finally introduced some of the classics of the SNES and the NES, but they didn't have it off the bat, where they seem to have come with some big games, so that's the second part. They're interesting. They haven't talked about the pricing. I'd like to get your views on what the pricing might be. I think it's around. I think I pay around £20 or £20 a year for my online service, but you don't get much. But I only did it for the online saves.
It's still cheaper than Then again, I guess the PSN Plus includes other things.
Yeah.
So
I think it's what you get for your money, and I don't think £20 a year is a lot, but. I understood that the Nintendo Online service was quite bare bones.
It is.
Yeah, and I don't know what the price increase is for this new plan either. Look, I'm a bit of a retro guy. I've got, in some shape or form, I've got thousands of retro games on my computer. I've literally got all of it. And whilst I've got all of it, I think it excites me somewhat when people do this sort of thing on their service. Because retro is retro. It's great, yeah. And I wish kind of PlayStation would do this. To a degree, kind of Xbox do a bit more of this.
Yep.
But Nintendo have a heritage of games, so of course they should do it. They got the legacy. But like you said, Jay, out of the blue, saying Sega Genesis games, and these Sega Genesis games were tier 1 games.
Yep.
They were tier 1. Synonymous with the Mega Drive Genesis, so that was actually quite interesting to see.
Yeah.
Can I just rattle them off very quickly? So the N64.
Yeah.
For the N64, we've got Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Lilac Wars, which is basically Star Fox, but name change,
Star
right?
Fox. Yeah.
We've got Yoshi, we've got Ocarina of Time, Zelda, Mario, Dr. Mario Tennis, Win Back, which was a rare game, and there's another game which I can't tell the name of it. And for the Mega Drive, we've got Golden Axe, Strider, just calling out the big ones I know, Sonic 2, Streets of Rage, Shinobi, Echo the Dolphin, Castlevania, Contra, and there's a couple more, but those are the big ones. That's a pretty good list.
I am surprised they did that.
Yeah.
Because those Mega Drive compilations sell really well on every single platform. I don't know how many versions of it I've already purchased in the past. I think I've got it on PS3, PS4, and on the PC now. So
yeah, there are actually more Sega Genesis Mega Drive games than I think there were N64 games.
There are.
Yeah, I think that's what I got from it. I mean,
but those N64 games are they're AAA N64 era games, aren't they? They haven't. I mean,
they're definitely tier 1 as well. Yeah.
I think I think they mentioned. Oh, actually, sorry to add, the Majora's Mask F-Zero X, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Golf, Kirby 64, Paper Mario, and Pokemon Snap are coming
Yeah.
shortly afterwards. So they've just gone bang with this offering
And they support 4-player online.
online
The
as well.
split screen stuff
Yes, I think
the
this is
N64 is well known.
and they've got the N64 hardware, the controller
Yeah.
updated as in wireless,
Yeah, it's
and
wireless.
the Mega Drive controller as well. I think this is a massive, understated, uppercut, roundhouse kick from the presentation, which at the time I was like, oh, that's cool. But when I went back and looked at it, like as you were saying, Joe, I'm and even more now, I'm actually looking at those controllers, thinking I probably want to get one of those. No, just for my kids to experience at some point.
Definitely.
The stuff that you just covered there, that gives me another reason to go buy a Switch now. Because actually, in a portable format, because this is the other thing, is like I would love to go over to catch up with some friends. One of my gamer friends probably, and if you've got some time, we'll have a quick game of Golden Axe or something on a Switch. You just bring across a couple of controllers and off you go.
Definitely,
Don't have to worry about anything else.
Definitely.
I think the only thing is, I think I could be wrong on this. You can download the game, but I think it needs to be online to play the
Online connectivity.
Oh,
It should be okay though. I think most places you'll have a broadband connection, or if not, you can tether 4G or 5G. You can probably make it work.
but how much is this expansion pack on the service though? Does anybody know?
No, people are talking about £10 and max 20, but I think that's reasonable. They'll add more games as well over time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's. I think it's a fair ask, to be honest.
I'm just surprised they bundled it in.
It's not competitive, but it is good for Nintendo, because Nintendo are stingy on everything, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
That's what I mean. I was like, I would have thought they wouldn't have bundled it in there, and you would just sell it as a compilation, and in volumes, as what they do with the Mega Drive today. You'd make a ton of money. I would, even in a compilation of sets of Mega Drive compilations or N64 compilations, I would probably get a Switch just to purchase that one and pay £20 outright for it.
I mean, they must get numbers on how much these compilations make these days. And I imagine that is getting less and less. They probably think now's the right time let's get some kudos and marketing points as well. To sound a little bit more cynical. But it's definitely a good thing they're doing. I mean, it's just like you didn't expect it.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're more reserved roster of games, but they've come out swinging with that one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I just feel there was very little to kind of really say about Nintendo's online service up to this point. It's there, it works. That's pretty much it. I've never ever heard anybody talk much about it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's light, but as £20 a year for me to not lose my save files in case the console goes kaput. It was. I just thought.
I bet that's money well spent there.
Yeah, I paid that. Out of 10, just on the.
Ooh, we're not finished. There was one thing I want to kind of call out.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. I was going to ask a rating just for the expansion pack, not for
the expansion pack.
Yeah, what would you?
I don't know what I'd give it actually. I mean, because I don't have a lot of experience with Nintendo's existing newest online service.
From excitement, let's just say, as a Nintendo fan, what did it ring the bell at?
Yeah,
7
it did.
out of
I think
10,
the Sega piece really kind of rang the bell really quite hard, because I didn't expect that. I'd give that. I'm just trying to think about this rationally. I think I have to give it really a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah, because it just the whole, here's the N64 games, and that wasn't absolutely unexpected. Oh, by the way, we got this thing with Sega as well, and you're getting tier 1 games. Yeah, and here's some controllers, so you can kind of scratch your retro itch. I'm just thinking it from the retro slant, really.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's where it's. And yourself, Al?
Oh, I would have gone.
System seller for you is. You're gonna get
it's an 8. It's an 8, I think. I think you've listed out from the Mega Drive perspective. As soon as you talk Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, those two are great co-op games.
Yeah.
Right. You mentioned the Sonic ones. system sellers. The only other one missing, and typically they bundle it, is Altered Beast, and that's pretty much it. And that's the compilation. Really.
I'm surprised that was missed there actually. But yeah, that's cool. I was going to move on very quickly. I'm just going to wrap up with some of the other announcements, and then you feel free to jump in. So there was an announcement there was an Animal Crossing free DLC coming in November. So fans were excited about that because that is sold like hotcakes. For me, it looks good. I don't want to invest the time basically. Super Smash Brothers, they mentioned that there will be a final fighter, which since the actual event they've announced it's Suro from Kingdom Hearts, is that which I'm not
Okay, yeah.
That's the final character. I think he's done with the whole Smash Brothers, but what a roster of characters in that game. That's a system seller as well. Metroid Dread, so they showed that game. That's since been released. It's reviewed quite well. I'm probably going to get that, but I'll wait for the price to come down. Mario Party was mentioned, which is I think a package. Mario Party Superstars, which is a package of lots of the levels from older Mario Party games. Hyrule Warriors, there was a DLC. The other highlights, there was and you guys probably know this character more than me, but there was like an equivalent to Mario Kart, Chobo GP.
Chocobo, GP, from Square Enix.
Looked like a good game. The frame rate was terrible.
Yeah, it's an older PS1 or PS2 game actually.
Yeah.
It's not a new game. It's not a new game. They've actually just okay.
Well, it might be a new game, but it's not the first time they've done this.
The concept would have been from PS1. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. There was some extra levels of Mario Golf. There was Castlevania Advanced Collection. I think that's got a bunch of games Castlevania fans were wanting from the Game Boy Advance. That was a big announcement.
That looks interesting. I like these old school games that they package up, and they're just gonna give it a little bit extra, and
I've not played any of the Castlevania games. Is it something worth going back to play? Is it hold up well, age well, or?
I think there's quite a few. They call it Metroidvania. I think nowadays as a grouping of these classifications of games. But there are some good ones as well, the modern ones. But I would say probably like the SNES ones are probably good enough to go back to. And actually, to be honest, because they're all side-scrolling, generally they're all pretty safe to go back to.
Right.
Worth playing simply from the perspective of nostalgia and kind of the history of these things.
Yeah. I'm sure there must be lots of fans who are happy about that. The other two I wanted to mention, which probably aren't big things, but they're my personal kind of highlights from it. There was a game called Triangle Strategy.
Yes, I wanted to call it out.
So, I mentioned earlier that since playing Destiny, I've suddenly got, RPGs actually are interesting. I've Dragon Quest 10 or 11? I can't remember which is the latest one. It's quite old now, but it's...
I think it's probably 11. I might be wrong, but...
11, yeah, 11. I've got the demo, but that's the sort of game I'm now interested in. I haven't got to playing. I've got Octopath Traveler, which I just loved the whole kind of mechanics of it. I only got maybe 2/5 of the way through. I need to go back and revisit that. But this Triangle Strategy is in the same sort of... Not the same game, but same style, and I like that.
It's a tactical RPG, so it will be turn-based, so it will be a little bit like Disgaea, if you know that, and there's a Final Fantasy Tactics as well, which is really known tactical.
Yeah.
But I just loved the way it looked. It had this kind of brilliant art style. You know what I mean? And I thought, wow, guys, you know what I mean? Like, this is good.
I'm definitely getting it, that one. And then the other one, which I think is from Square Enix, which I thought looked quite good, because Al, you've got me into the card games, playing what's it now?
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire. I'm hooked on card games now. But it was called Voice of Cards.
I saw that.
Isle Dragon Roars. I think that's a Square Enix game. That looked quite good as well. So
it was too much cards for me, mate. I looked at it. Everything was a card. Literally everything. And I thought, no, I don't think. It's not for me. I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah, fair enough. Both those games have got a free trial instantly. You can download. So. But those are the other little personal highlights. Was there anything else from you guys in terms of games you wanted to mention? I think that we've gone through the main ones.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of gushed around kind of Triangle Strategy, Metro Dread. I kind of really like the look of. Yeah, there's this thing called ActRaiser Renaissance. It was a really interesting side-scrolling action game, and then it flipped over into more of a kind of world-building kind of populist type of game. So there's two things in one. It's not a new game. Don't get me wrong. It's not a new game, but it's a well-known old game that they brought back.
So I saw a video on
Digital Foundry.
Digital Foundry, yes, and they reviewed this game because this game was out on the day of the Direct, and apparently it's a classic game that's got a mix of kind of side-scrolling and top-down of strategy planning. But apparently I wasn't sure the frame rate, but the kind of the feel of the game is kind of off.
Frame pacing,
yeah. So they said, it's not as good as it could have been, which is a bit of a shame because this one also piqued my eye as well. I seem to like so maybe 20 years too late, seem to like some of Square Enix's kind of old school style RPG styles now.
If you want those ones, and if you like the sort of tactics ones, Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Front Mission 3? I think it was Front Mission. Let me just check what it is.
Disgaea, man. Disgaea. Don't forget Disgaea. Classic.
Is that on the Switch, the Final Fantasy? It must be, right?
I don't know if they've done tactics. I would imagine they would.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Because it's quite an old game.
And does it still play well? It was a
really great game back in the day. It's one of those that I would have multiple copies of.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, I'll check it out. Thanks for that. I said maybe we've talked it up a bit more. How would you rate the whole Direct then? Before
we rate it, did you guys see that Miyamoto announcement about the Mario film?
Oh, sorry, I mentioned that. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Did you see who was playing Mario, voicing Mario?
Yes, it was
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Yeah, that's right.
It was Mr. Guardians of the Galaxy. It's actually quite amazing that he's doing that. Actually, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But I've got a list of the actors down here that I kind of noted, right? And there's some really well-known actors here, and I was actually a little bit surprised. I got to be honest, right? Anna Taylor, is it Joy? Playing Princess Peach. Charlie Day, playing Luigi, and he was the guy that was one of the scientists, or the scientist in Pacific Rim that connected with, the aliens. And Jack Black is playing Bowser.
It's a strong cast.
Yeah, really strong. Keegan-Michael Key told, and you'd recognise him. He's a well-known American comedian. And Seth Rogen is playing Donkey Kong.
That's crazy.
Bloody A-list, man. It is absolutely A-list.
There's so much money riding on this and perception. This has to be a really good film. I'm not saying it is going to be.
Yeah.
But from Nintendo's perspective, it has to be.
I mean, is it? It's an animation, right? Is it an animation?
Okay, so it's being produced by Illumination Studios.
Despicable Me.
Despicable Me and Minions.
Yeah, so it's an animation, which is good.
Okay, that'll be a bit. That's a bit safer, right? Because you could do something. Because I think the Sonic movie eventually was pretty good after after the model was redone, right?
Yeah.
But the acting and stuff didn't change. I didn't think changed, right? So I think in general the the movie eventually got good ratings.
After the last Mario movie, I mean, it's probably something that you're going to want to avoid, right? The Bob Hoskins.
That was a classic. It was a classic at the time, but it's a terrible film.
Yeah, it's a terrible film.
For the wrong reasons, it was a classic. I recently bought the book and read, and then watched the film Lorax, which is produced by the same studio, and the actual 3D models and style, the style of the kind of characters. I think Illumination Studios is a good fit for Mario. Whether they can construct a compelling story that doesn't seem odd because Mario never talks is where I think it's going to be make or break, I think.
Well, Miyamoto said something, going back to what you said about Mario doesn't really talk, Miyamoto said something that was quite contradictory to what you said, which is, again, quite weird. He said something about Chris Pratt will be talking a lot. Thinking about what you just said, Jay, and then what Miyamoto said,
I mean, he makes noises, Mario.
Yeah, no, but
that's about it. But
I don't think they can pay Chris Pratt the many millions they're probably paying him just to make a few noises. You know what I mean? I don't think that's gonna cut it. But
I wonder what accent he's gonna have.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, that's the thing. So, some Texan accent, basically, that he's going to put on for Mario or something like.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me, it's Mario.
I think it'll be fun. Nintendo aren't. They're such a strong. They've got a really strong, even stronger brand and catalog, and they're on a roll at the moment with the Switch.
They'll protect their IP. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
they'll just axe the film if it's not good.
Yeah, they'll protect that IP.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. Was there anything else you wanted to mention on that, Joe, before we kind of?
No, I think we we got everything, but yeah, it's one of my pet hates. I just wish the guy that was hosting the actual director, what's his name? Kazumi. I think his name is Kazumi. I wish he'd stop asking us, what do you think of that? Like, that's one of my pet hates. Yeah.
With a funny lip sync.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Tell him to go read the YouTube comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the slapstick style of the whole thing.
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
Not to prolong this topic, yay, nay, or okay.
That was
Where
good.
we?
I think it was a yay. It was a yay for me. I think. Do you know? I'm gonna say 7.5 for this if I have to give it a number. But I think it's definitely
Yeah.
yay. I think they did quite well.
Sounds like a very good set of content. I'm actually going to go and have a look at it now. I think
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do. And Jay, on the topic of the sort of Castlevania type things, it looks like there isn't a tactics version for Switch and the release date. There isn't a front mission, but the one I wanted to mention was Bloodstained. Is the game name?
What Castlevania?
Bloodstained is a Metroidvania style
okay.
game. It was on PC first, but came on Switch.
So I was looking at that game for a long time, and I was going to buy it on the Switch, but it had really bad performance when it came out. And then I was hoping they sorted the performance and got it stuck at 30. Then I was hoping they were going to patch it to make it 60. Then that never happened, and then then I thought, maybe I'll get it on the PlayStation. So I think I probably will get it, but not on the Switch.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If it doesn't perform well, then yeah, it's a difficult one. But again, essentially, pretty much all Castlevania type games are very similar to what Bloodstained's like. So they all follow that very similar style.
But that game looks good though, Bloodstained. That's probably the type of, and I think this triangle strategy is probably going to looks. I had a quick look at the images of tactics. It's probably going to give me enough of that kind of. But yeah, I've just got a soft spot with that type of game now. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what.
They're just charming, these types of games as well. I mean, you got the art style and the fact that it's going to be deep.
There was another game on the Switch which was very much like that. I'll dig out the name, but that was that was very popular.
Yeah, cool. And Al, was it a yay from you from the
Yeah,
this,
it sounded really good.
Yeah.
I mean, probably a 7, 8. I've not looked at it yet, so I'll probably go have a look at it. But even just from what was covered, it sounds interesting.
Just audio switch after this podcast, and then go watch it. I'm probably the same as you guys. Definitely yay, probably 8 out of 10. I feel like I've got even more invested after we've gone through the games on this. Cool. But yeah, that sums up the Nintendo Direct.
And guys, with that done, let's move on to our next topic, or maybe it's just our goodbyes.